This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Ease, California's top one-stop website for legal marijuana delivery. If you live in the Golden State and want to know what your local options are for legal cannabis delivery, just fire up ease.com. The folks over at Ease have encoded the different rules and regulations for marijuana delivery right into their system, so you'll always be in compliance with state law when you make your orders through ease.com, which is spelled E-A-Z-E, ease.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, January 11th, 2018, and you're tuned in to episode 407 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is the huge news out of Vermont that the state Senate has voted in favor of the adult use legalization bill passed by the State House late last week, clearing the way for Governor Phil Scott to sign the bill as he said he'd do. This would make the Green Mountain State the first in the nation to legalize adult use marijuana via the legislative process. Vermont will become the 9th state out of 50 to legalize adult use and will allow adults ages 21 years and older to possess up to an ounce of cannabis while also being free to grow up to 6 plants at home, 2 mature and 4 in seedling phase. Vermont will not be setting up any kind of commercial marijuana system, at least for now. This is hugely fantastic news, especially as it comes so closely on the rescinding of the Cole memo by U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. There's no better way to signal dissent on cannabis policy than to vote through a bill legalizing adult use. Big kudos to everyone involved in this one. Swing over to Tom Angel's piece on Marijuana Moment for more on Vermont's big vote. Reuters has an exclusive piece up looking at the lack of coordination among federal government banking officials ahead of the announcement that Attorney General Jeff Sessions would be rescinding the Cole memo. Regular listeners know how vexing of an issue banking is to state legal cannabis businesses, and according to Reuters reporting, federal banking officials were given no advanced warning that Sessions would be rescinding the Cole memo, resulting in a bit of informational chaos in the days that followed as they scrambled to get caught up on the situation. While there's been relatively few banking institutions willing to work with cannabis companies, there are around 400 banks and credit unions nationwide that do. As it stands now, the Federal Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which oversees banking issues within the Department of Justice, said they would be adhering to a parallel guidance document issued in 2014 around marijuana business banking. This is another good one to open up in full. Our final top story of the day is a broader piece originally published by Bloomberg that looks at how the United States' standing within international drug treaties is affected by marijuana legalization at home. This is an important issue to have a handle on as our country has spent decades imposing a strict cannabis prohibitionary scheme on the rest of the world, and our ability to maintain compliance gets a bit washed away every time there's major progress in marijuana legalization. James Gibney's piece nicely dives into some of the history of international drug control policy before looking at how things stand today. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Ease, California's top one-stop website for legal marijuana delivery. Ease partners up with only the top dispensaries in their active areas. So if you're lucky enough to live in a part of California allowing for marijuana delivery, you'll always find fantastic products at great prices when you place an order through ease.com, which is spelled E-A-Z-E. If you're not a resident of the Golden State, you should open up ease.com/blog to read some of their beautifully produced articles and guides. Their most recent efforts have yielded some really helpful articles on how things are going in the opening days of legal California adult use marijuana. One more time, that's ease.com/blog. Thanks to all our friends over at Ease for the support. All right, time for the Blitz. Jumping up north to Canada, we find a story that's almost becoming routine, with licensed medical marijuana provider Organigram Holdings announcing a deal to raise $100 million Canadian, or just over $80 million US, through a deal with underwriters led by 8 Capital. This is the third $100 million fundraising deal I've reported on in Canada in as many days, with this deal also coming with an option for the underwriters to pick up an additional $15 million in the 30 days following the close. If this doesn't draw your intense attention to Canada, I don't know what will. Speaking of Canada, Colorado-based company MJardin is going public in a reverse merger with the Canadian company Sumatra Diversified, with the newly merged company to retain the MJardin branding. The deal is expected to close sometime in April. Swing over to New Cannabis Ventures for the full read on this one. Up here in my corner of the country in Maine, state lawmakers are working to find a compromise bill legalizing adult-use marijuana sales after our obstructionist Governor Paul LePage vetoed a measure worked out by a large legislative committee working over the course of most of last year. The Portland Press Herald is reporting on a public hearing held yesterday to discuss a number of proposed bills covering legal cannabis, including one that would remove the ability of registered caregivers to cycle through an unlimited number of patients, instead restricting them to a hard cap of 5. If you're into the Maine scene, this is a good story to open up for the full read. A new poll out of Canada looking at the ease with which people consume different intoxicants in the presence of family members speaks to the lingering stigmas attached with cannabis use, with just 14% of respondents saying they felt comfortable smoking marijuana in front of their families versus 62% who said the same thing about alcohol. The poll was conducted by the polling company Nanos, surveyed 1,000 random Canadians, and had a margin of error of plus or minus 3.1%. The state of Colorado sold just under $120 million worth of legal cannabis in the month of November, according to new numbers just released by the Colorado Department of Revenue. The total was split up between adult use sales, which pulled in $87.7 million, with the remaining $31.9 million coming in from the medical side of the industry. You can pop over to the Cannabist for more details and to see how that total charts against past results. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Courthouse News has a story up about some infighting within marijuana media, as former High Times editor Stephen Hager has filed suit against the new owners of High Times Media, alleging that he's been defrauded out of ownership of the company. Regular listeners should remember that High Times was sold last year to a group of investors for $42 million. Mr. Hager said things started going badly for him at High Times back in 2013 due to disagreements over the rights for archival video footage. If you're into meta marijuana media news, this is also a good one to open up. And finally for today, congratulations to our friends at 4Front, who just announced that they've raised $6 million in investment to fund their continuing operations. 4Front is a well-known cannabis investment and consulting firm, and in a bit of disclosure, led by my friend Chris Crane, host and regular on our weekly show, Marijuana Today. He's also a regular listener of this show himself. So, hey Chris, open up the New Cannabis Ventures for all the details on this one. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor Ease and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today.
One take, Shay. One take.